Hi, I'm Mary, certified relationship coach, Christian sex educator, empty nester, and happy jet skiing wife who believes God's design for sex in marriage is too good to stay quiet about.
And I'm Katieann, senior pastor, wife, mom to four kiddos, and I always love having some fun, even when we're diving into the deep and holy conversations about marriage and sex.
So, welcome to the Sexual Wholeness Revival Podcast. Hello, hello, and welcome back, everyone. We are so glad you are here. And for those of you ladies that joined us last week, your toes might have been stepped on just a bit, but don't worry. We're talking to the husbands today because we need to unpack this age-old scenario where wives want connection before sex and husbands feel connection through sex. So, how do we resolve that and make that be a win-win for both spouses? And this is the question we're going to answer. How do we help husbands to not sabotage their sex life?
That is such a great question. I'm really curious though, Mary. Do you think husbands are even aware that it's within their grasp to make or break their sex life? Do you even think that they realize how important some of this is?
No, I don't think they do. So I hope they don't feel like we're stepping on their toes, guys, if you're listening, because this is going to help you. There are things you just did not know, and you will learn, and it will be to your advantage, but certainly for the good of your entire marriage. And I'm going to explain three things. Number one, why husbands could be in the dark in regards to emotional intimacy. Number two, simple steps to improve your sex life. So I hope you heard simple and sex life, because we want to just encourage you that that's the goal we have. And then three, what happens when a wife feels loved and there's just an overflow of blessing in your entire marriage? That is our hope for every couple listening. And I have a little bit of a story that illustrates this, and a lot of people might not know. I used to own a horse farm in Kentucky. I actually had horses in Colorado too, but it was my early days in Kentucky when I was so green to figure out about horses. I had grown up riding them. It was just a thrill, but I did not know how to take care of them. And obviously, there's a whole lot more than just hopping on a saddle to be the best for yourself and for the horse. And we had built this farm and a barn and had all the things, and it was exciting and fun until we had a pony named Socks. Okay, a little bit of trivia here. A pony is not a small horse. A pony is a type of breed, and the reason it's called a pony is because of its height. Nobody cares, but I have to tell that, so there we go. And Socks loved to eat grass, and he would not only eat the greenest grass he could find, but when we had buckets of grain, he was the bossy one, and he would bump everybody else out of their buckets so that he could eat theirs too. And lots of personality this little guy had. What I didn't know is that there is such a thing as too much grass. And that first spring grass is really rich with protein, and it's different. The grass changes throughout the season. Think about too much rain or not enough rain. I mean, it changes the quality of it. There we go. A little bit of farming information here. And when it's too green, some horses have a problem, and it's really devastating for their hoof wall. It could separate and they could go lame. It's very serious, and to have a vet come take care of it, which is always the case, costly. So a fun situation turned into something pretty scary. And once we figured out, oh, we have to really watch Socks when that new grass comes out and take good care of him so that he doesn't eat too much. And I'm not calling anybody a horse, but there are things you have to learn in regards to your marriage and your sex life. You know, it's thrilling. Woohoo! We're married. We're going to have sex. And that's a wonderful starting place with lots of enthusiasm. But the daily care for yourself, for your spouse, for your interaction is something just takes some information to get you on the right path. So everybody is enjoying it.
Yeah, what training do men have to become a husband, to know how to love their wife before they get married? I mean, what training is out there? Do they get on the job training? Are they just expected to get that type of training, or what is available for them?
Hey, there are books now, thankfully. Katieann and I were talking before we started recording about my own premarital experience and counseling, and so that's available. Usually, whatever you get before a marriage is not enough because you interact differently after you're married. And even if you have been sexually active with your fiance before you got married, it is different after you're married. So I'm always encouraging training, education, understanding before you get married, but certainly knowing that even after you're married, there is a lot more that you can learn with this. And let me give those husbands some encouragement. Okay, guys, one of the reasons that you might feel in the dark in regards to emotional intimacy is that you are not socialized to be emotional. There's that line of thought, well, a real man doesn't show his feelings. And even if your family growing up was close, you may have just shut it down with other people. It's not something that has been practiced a lot, or you accidentally stumbled on, or maybe you have a close relationship within your birth family, but it's because they were drawing things out of you. And we know that emotional connection is more than romance. Guys might
Right.
think, oh, it's just this big, long, drawn out process. I have to wine her and dine her. I have to come up with all these romantic poems. And it takes a lot of work, and there's planning. It's overwhelming and scary. And especially if she doesn't even respond like you
Right.
thought she would when you did all of the work. You're like, hey, I'm doing everything that I know to do. Why is this not working? So cards have kind of been stacked against the guys. And that's one of the reasons we're having this talk, to change all of that. The good news is all of that big ordeal with I gotta be romantic, that isn't even what she really wants. What a woman really wants is to know you are interested in her. She wants to know that she is still as important today as the day you got married and before you got married. Or maybe she wants to know she's even more important. She just wants that place of feeling special. Do you think that's universally true, Katieann, that wives just ultimately want to know that their husband's interested in them?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you look at even the 5 love languages, what is the similar piece with all of them is
Mm.
that whether it's acts of service, quality time, it is when you spend quality time in a way that speaks to your wife's heart, that says, I know you. I
Yeah.
know that, for me, I love playing card games. That
Ah,
feels like sitting at the table and playing card games. And so when I'm having a rough time or days are just hectic, my husband will look at me and say, Hey, do you want to play a card game with me? And I go, oh, I feel so seen and known in that moment. And for an acts of service person, it's not just doing a bunch of tasks and chores, but it's actually doing things that are a priority
Hmm.
for that person, and not just doing them, but doing in a way that they feel is a priority. So,
Yeah.
for instance, I clean the bathroom a certain way because I was trained from a kid. You clean from the top down. And then my husband goes in there and he starts doing all of these things. And I'm like, well, you can't, you just got all of that dirty because you cleaned this first. And he's like, why are you criticizing me? I just have, and it makes sense to me. But for
Mm.
him, when he shows me, oh, I'm going to clean it this way, not because my wife is being rude and very anal about it, but because this is what's important to her. What he's speaking
Yeah.
to me is that he knows me. And that's really what speaks value, is that I see you and I know you. And so it's not just always the flowers, but it's what the
Mm.
flowers are saying in that moment of, I see you and I know you. My husband knows I love plants. And so when he shows up with a new plant out of the blue, because he's not a huge fan of all the
Mm.
plants I have, but he loves me and he sees me and he knows me. So he'll come home with a plant. And so I do think it's universally true that no matter, it's less about the modality as much as it
Ah,
is the nuances behind it that communicate. I see you and I know you
that's so
and I
good.
love you.
Yes. Yes. I love that. It just makes me think in my kitchen, hanging on the wall, I have a plaque and it says, I choose you.
Yeah.
And it's just a reminder every day to let that be motivation for why I do what I do. When I'm thinking of my husband, I'll have to ask him, did you read that plaque? But it's a good idea to have that
Right.
as a foundation.
Right. And I just want to make it clear too that when it comes to cleaning bathroom, I'll take a clean bathroom no matter how it gets cleaned. I was just trying to use that as an example. I'm sure there are plenty of wives that would just take a clean bathroom.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about are the simple steps that you can do because you can't ignore your wife all day long and only show interest when you want to have sex. Ladies, I know you're shaking your head with me because that does not work. So, what are the simple things you can do, guys? Here we go. I've got 5 for you. Number 1, ask her about her day with genuine interest, with attention. You are putting your phone away, you're looking and you're listening. Hey, how was your day, hun? It can be that simple. Number 2, pay attention and respond. So the question is good. It's not enough because we want that whole body getting in the spirit of it. And you can follow up with words that are encouraging. Oh, wow, that sounds tough. Or, hey, that's awesome that happened with your boss or that happened with the kids. You're giving feedback. You're actually giving a response that reflects you've heard what she has said. You're not immediately changing the subject. You're giving her this attention and this focus. Number 3, give her kind words, which certainly can be a compliment. Now, I've had some husbands say, "Yeah, I don't think like that." Well, write it down when you are thinking about it. Keep it in your phone, have a note someplace where when you know it would be helpful, it doesn't have to be that it's an overflow of where you are. You can go to the resource you created with that compliment, with those kind words. But she always wants to know, hey, babe, you look amazing. Those kinds of things don't have to be a big ordeal. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes to do it again and again. You're creating a habit. She is absolutely going to start responding when you do some of these simple things. Number 4, we're getting more specific here towards sex. Offer pressure-free touch. Now, I know there are some guys that come home from work and they're just grabbing the headlights and they're spanking that butt, and there's a time and a place for that, but not from the get-go. We want pressure-free touch. So you're just appreciating her whole person. I know Katieann was talking earlier about the types of love languages. So physical touch is not always sexual touch. And so it can be a hug, it can be a squeeze, a handhold, a squeeze right there, a kiss on the cheek. Hey, I also love it when there's some teasing. So maybe it is a hug that's lingering a little bit, but then you back away and you're not expecting it to immediately lead to sex. So those are 4 so far that get you through the day, that keep that love in a way that she can process and benefit from. But I have a 5th one that is super specific to sex. And it also is going to help you guys, because if you say, husbands, I feel connected through sex, so then after sex happens, you should be having all kinds of feelings. That's what you told us, that connection was going to happen then. Make the most of it. Let that be the time you say super loving things, that you are really expressing your feelings. If you feel it big, right then, say it big. Wow, babe, that was amazing. I love being with you. You are the most important person to me on the planet. When we have time for intimacy, you rock my world. It just changes everything for me. I want you to know that. And so, guys, if you're thinking it, then form it into words and say it, because you will win her right there. If sex does it for you to the place you feel connected, then do that extra step and say it out loud. But I know, Katieann, we have talked about what does it feel like when a wife knows she's loved and how it just like changes her from the inside out. So can you speak to that just a little bit more?
Yeah, I it's so crazy what's possible when you take the first step towards getting help
Mm,
or learning new tools for your relationships. And really so much of our testimony is just that. We were handed the tools that were modeled to us, and so within 7 years of our marriage, I was pretty miserable. Like, I wasn't very nice to my husband, and Josh is a very kind, patient man.
yeah.
And he's not like me. And I had said earlier to you, yeah, I don't want him to be like me, because that's too much. One of me is enough. I don't want him to be like me. But one of the things that he would do from the minute we got together and our marriage started, he would come home from work and say, "Hi, baby. I love you. How was your day? What do you
Mm,
need?" And as a young wife and a young mom, I was just struggling. I was struggling, and I would get
yeah.
super mad, and I would blow up, and I just was a very unhappy person in life. And my husband kept his love on towards me those 7 years. I mean, he is a rock star when it comes to our marriage, and he would still faithfully come home and say, "What do you need? What do you need?" And for years, I didn't know what I needed. And
Yeah.
one day he told me in a very kind way, and if it wasn't for Jesus, I don't know if I could have heard these words. And he just said, "You know how hard it is to love someone who doesn't love themselves?"
Oh,
And I realized that my ability to receive love from him was not a him problem. It was a me problem. And so I committed right there before to him. I committed to him, and I committed to myself and God and my two, at the time I had 2 little girls, that there was something that needed to happen on the inside. And so
Yeah.
I took that challenge and I began to work on me. And the transformation did not happen overnight. But what did happen is my husband's message of unconditional love for me never changed. It never stopped through it. And as I began to heal from wounds that I didn't even realize were there, that I was
Yeah.
living from, that message of his love was able to be received
Mm.
inside of me. And I remember one argument it wasn't really an argument. This was later on in our marriage. All marriages have ups and downs, but
Yeah.
our marriage is consistently connected. We're consistently in connection and not
Mm.
disconnection like we used to be. And I was telling him how I felt. I think went something like, I don't feel like a priority when you A and B. And
Okay.
he's looking at me going, and his exact words were, can you quantify that? And I went, quantify that? I don't even know what that word means. This is just how I feel. And it was such a pivotal moment, though, because he realized to validate me, to affirm me, wasn't an assassination of his character,
Yeah.
but instead it was an opportunity to hear me and
Mm.
affirm.
Mm.
His heart is to serve me, and he's proven that again and again in 20 years. And
Wow.
so now I feel so seen and so loved because I can say, hey, I feel disconnected. I feel distant from you. And instead of getting defensive, he can actually validate that. And then he follows up with the question, what do
Mm.
you need?
That's
What
good.
can I do? And so all of a sudden, it's created this safety where I feel seen and loved. And the next thing I know, he's bringing a plant home for me, not because he loves all of my plants. And he's cleaning the bathroom in a way I liked it to be clean, not because I'm standing over him going criticizing everything, but because his goal is not to be right,
Mm.
but that there's a safety and a validation that's happening where I'm not criticizing or assassinating his character, but I'm trying to put verbiage to what I'm feeling. It doesn't make it true of his
Yeah.
character. And
Yeah.
so the minute that he was able to do that, I mean, from that moment, he went, aha, I'm not trying to solve her problems. All she needs is to be heard. And
Mm.
he's done that. And he looks at me and says, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I did that. What do
Wow.
you need? What can I do for you? And all of a sudden, physically and emotionally, I just want to give everything to him.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to give everything to him. There's no withholding physically or in my heart because he's just raised the standard of what it means to be seen and loved
Amen.
in every way possible.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. He's incredible.
Yay, God.
I like to brag on him.
Yeah, yeah, that's just keeps the encouragement going and keeps the "I wanna do more" feeling when you see those things that are happening. And I have some scripture I want to share that actually supports science. And the first one is 1 Peter 3:7 that talks about husbands loving their wives. And some translations use the word to see her as a weaker vessel, but that is not weaker in character or in value. It is just directly calling to a level of strength. And we are seeing that what it means, she's actually worth being cherished. She is so precious that is why he is honoring her. And we also know from Ephesians 5:25, we are told that husbands are to love their wives as the church, because Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. That Jesus pursues, He notices, he serves, he cherishes, and he sacrifices. And sacrifice is I'm doing something that is pleasing to my spouse right now. I am preferring them over me. And that is one of the instructions given to husbands. Now, of course, wives are going to be doing that as well. But that is given right here. And we know that Jesus models connection emotionally and that physical way of serving and being there. Katieann, any other thoughts that you want to add?
Yeah, for you men, really the best encouragement is that if you can remove your ego a little bit and
Mm,
understand that the goal isn't to be the most right in your relationship and actually create a space for somebody else to just share their feelings, for your wife to share her feelings,
yeah.
not meaning that that's right and that's you're a horrible person, but just to express what's going on. You can actually begin to ask really good questions to get what's really underneath the surface of that.
Mm,
And that's something
mm-hmm.
my husband has done for me. Okay, but why do you feel this way? What's going on? What do you need? Those questions instead of going, how dare you feel that way? And being super offended, going, whoa, I didn't realize you were struggling. How can I help you? And instead of going, well, trying to fix it, I'm just going to remove your ego a little bit and listen and ask really good questions. And that is really going to go a long ways to creating that safety space and that space for her to really feel like she's seen. And when she not only feels seen and safe, just watch as her natural reaction is to just pour out physically and
Yeah,
emotionally. And all of a sudden the reasons why she needed to self-protect and withhold aren't there
they're
because
not there.
you removed your ego a little bit.
That's awesome. That's good. And we know that talking about sex can be delicate. And it's like if you've had some difficulty with the emotional connection, then oh my gosh, like sex seems like off the table completely. And I actually wrote 2 books. Why can't I talk to her about sex? Why can't I talk to him about sex? And I'm going to put the link here in the show notes if you have struggled with that. And there's several questionnaires. I like it. It's the curious questions for you to learn about yourself and figure out partly what's going on inside me that makes it difficult for me to open up and share. And when you're doing work on yourself, you're doing work on the marriage. And it's
Right.
not a measure it where we both have to do the exact same work, but it is wonderful when you are both pressing into more closeness and connection. That's going to be a sweet spot for you. And I want to mention one last thing that in the Sexual Wholeness Revival podcast, we use the gifts model to talk about God's design for intimacy in marriage. And each letter, GIFTS, stands for something, and G is for good. And we unpacked last week about for the women, the wives, to know how good sex is. And I is for intimate. And we're talking about emotional connection today. So it fits right there. The F stands for fierce, the T stands for timeless, and the S stands for sacred. So each episode, we begin to unpack what that is on deeper levels and what are some of the really practical ways that you can bring that to pass. So please stay with us every week, subscribe, hit that bell so that you get notifications, share it with friends. And we know that this message is absolutely needed and going to help so many marriages.
Until next time, let's bring back wholeness.